Hey folks, welcome to Build at Home. I'm Ricky Camilleri. I'm joined right now by the great, I would say legendary Vincent Cassel, who I'm a humongous fan of, who you can see in this new season of Westworld. Before we get started in our conversation, I just want to say really fast that kids in need across the country have missed more than 234 million meals due to school closures. We're helping as much as we can, and you can too, by going to .org, where you can find out how you can donate or volunteer time to help kids get meals. On that note, Vincent Cassel, thank you so much for joining me. It's a pleasure to talk to you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
How are you holding up? Are you quarantined yourself? Are you self-isolating at the moment?
I am actually, like the rest of the French people. The whole nation is at home really right now. So I was lucky enough to end up in the south of France. So I'm in the countryside. So at least there's a garden. It's pretty sunny, and we wait for this crisis to pass, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So how are you keeping yourself sane and active while you're there?
Well, you got plenty of time to do stuff that usually you don't have time to do. I'm surrounded with my family. I got movies to watch, things to read. There's always a bunch of stuff to be done, really. Ultimately, I take it as a break that I will never allow myself to take. So,
yeah.
Until now, it's all good. Yeah.
Have you watched any good movies recently?
The last thing I've watched was the season of Euphoria.
Oh wow, you watched Euphoria. Are you a fan?
Yeah, I like it. It's pretty interesting in its writing, and they're taking a lot of it's pretty audacious in the way they trying to narrate the story. So yeah, I thought it was really interesting.
This is the HBO show Euphoria with Zendaya, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what it is.
I feel. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I've watched the first episode of Westworld last night. I was a little late.
Well, your character appears in the second episode of Westworld. Tell me, what made you want to be a part of this show, and tell me about your character.
Well, why did I want to be part of the show? Well, because I was a fan, I guess. I've seen the first two seasons out of curiosity. I really loved it. I watched the movie when I was really young in With Theater, talking about Westworld, the movie with Yul Brynner.
Yeah.
So when they called, I knew exactly what it was about, and I had this thought that it was the slickest show on air right now. So, this is an invitation I couldn't refuse.
I feel like last night, it's the 25th anniversary of the movie, and last night I went back and I watched La Haine. Really, like it wasn't your first film, but it was your breakthrough role, I guess. And early in your career, it felt like you were cast consistently as like these street tough kids, kind of wild. And I think of Irreversible, and I think of La Haine. And it's funny to see like Trance and with Westworld, you're sort of this very polished, slick gentleman of class. What has it been like to sort of have that transfer into that in your older age?
Well, strangely enough, that was the kind of split that I always had to do in my career, really. Right after La Haine, I at the time, in 95, I think it was, I was cast to play in a movie called L'Appartement, where I met my ex-wife at the time, and it was already like this kind of split, like a very polished young businessman, and a week before I was like a shaved head and with a gun, So I mean, it's I don't really feel like the split just happened lately. It's something I've always played around, with.
Who do you relate to more within that split? Who do you feel like is more your personality?
I have no idea, and honestly, I don't want to know. I'm just having fun with characters, and when you have fun doing what you do, you forget about yourself, and strangely enough, you just let things come out. Are they a reflection of you, or just you pretending? I have no idea, really. You can be very intense in something that has nothing to do with your personality. You don't have to become what you play, as you know, some people would think.
Yeah, a lot of your scenes in Westworld, as of right now, as far as I am into it, are with Thandi Newton or with Tessa Thompson. What is it like working with those two women?
It was really interesting to be to be part of it and to meet those women I've seen on screen so many times, in the show. So I had this feeling that I was entering their kingdom, and it's a very feminine kingdom when you think about it. The whole show is about femininity and about power and about freedom. So they play really strong female characters, and I don't know, it felt good. It felt like strangely enough, in my real life, I'm surrounded by women a lot. So I felt comfortable, really. I felt at home.
Especially this season as well. This season is very much about the sort of women rising up from the park and into the real world, trying to take over the sort of male-dominated business aspect of it.
Definitely. And strangely enough, even on the show, on the 8 different directors I've worked with, I think 6 of them were women. And then most of the writers were women too, and a lot of people from the production. So it was, it was a very feminine show, even though it's really tough.
Is that you said that in your personal life you're very used to that? Is that something that you've been used to in your professional life as well, or does that feel kind of new to be surrounded by so many creative and powerful women?
Business-wise, I've been directed by a few women before, and I don't really feel the difference, to be honest. It's once again, it's not about the genre or even the nationality of the person. It's really about the person.
Mm-hmm.
You can end up with a weak male director, or and I mean, it has nothing to do with the genre, really, I think. So was it the first time? No, but it didn't really happen a lot before. In my real life, as I told you, I have 3 daughters, first of all.
Oh, that's great.
And so, yeah, and I don't know. I mean, this questioning about women and empowerment of women, I totally get it, but it's not like I don't know. It's not like I really felt it in my entourage, let's say.
Can I ask how has having 3 daughters changed you as a person?
I don't know yet. It's happening every day, I guess. Yeah, I guess.
No time to really think about it.
No, but plus, they are young. I mean, they are girls, but it's not like I even look at them as if they were girls. They're just different personalities, beings. It feels like, once, my oldest one asked me, she said that she was 8 at the time, and she said, is it true that women are paid less than men? And I said, yes, unfortunately it's true. And she said, why? And I started to try to explain it, and then I just stopped and I said, it's a scam and you have to fight against it.
I think that's a great answer.
Yeah, and plus, at the end of the day, I don't think that generation, even less than the one who's actually 21 and more right now, that younger generation is not going to accept that at all. I'm almost sure.
Yeah. Going back and watching your first film, La Haine was your first film, correct?
No. I was at the time I was 20. I was 28, but I shot, like, honestly, that was my second interesting movie, I would say.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, before that, you need to work. You need to make your hours. You need to work. You need to eat. You need to pay the rent and everything. So I did accept some stuff before, but I remember that at the time I was trying to accept things that were short. I'd rather accept like a lot of different short things where nobody will actually really identify me, and wait for like the interesting gig to get involved for real.
What do you remember? I mean, it's such the film stands the test of time. It's still incredibly powerful and beautifully made, and all the performances, the three central performances, are so dynamic, and it really feels in a lot of ways. I don't know if you guys were talking about it at the time, but like the French answer to do the right thing in a way. And I'm wondering what you remember from making that movie.
Well, I remember that at the time before we actually shot that movie, we were watching what was happening in New York, of course, and especially with Spike Lee era when he came up with from She's Gotta Have It to a bunch of others. I have to say, I'm sure we were definitely inspired. And plus, the hip hop flavor to it, was very important at the time because there were a few people involved in the hip hop music and movement that, with the Zulu Nation and all that stuff at the time. And so we were very keen of all that thing, and I don't think it was an answer to it, but maybe it was just an equivalent.
Does it feel, as someone who was fairly young in 1995, I didn't know what was going on in France at that time, but was hip hop as prevalent in France in 1995 as it was in that film?
Yeah, well, maybe not as much as it is today.
Right.
It wasn't everywhere, but I mean, very earlier on, hip hop has been very intense in France. I have no idea why, but for a long time, we were, I think, the only country to listen to more local rap than American rap, which is kind of unheard before. So we, I don't know, maybe because there was a nest for it, in the suburbs and the diversity of of the population in France and everything. But it really worked, and very earlier on, we had very really strong iconic groups of our own.
Yeah. At the top of our interview, you said that one of the most recent things that you watched was the first season of Euphoria, which to me owes a great debt to a filmmaker that you worked with, Gaspar Noah, with Irreversible. I watch Euphoria and I see someone who has really internalized, at the very least, the aesthetic of some of Gaspar's work. Do you see that as well?
In a much mellower way, I would say. Because
of course.
I mean, I thought it was very interesting once again, but it's still directed for big audiences.
Yeah.
And so it stays slick all the time. I think what Gaspar does is each and every time groundbreaking and full of inventions that eventually will be stolen and will inspire people in the future. But I mean, visually, I think Gaspar is another level.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's much more confrontational and provocative than I think Euphoria is sort of allowed to be within the television realm. Is there any chance that you would ever work with Gaspar again? Are you guys in touch or ever talk about projects?
Well, Gaspar is a very different person than anybody else. I know. Gaspar is in his own world, and I think he's not craving for recognition or for fame or money. He just works when he has something to that suddenly inspires him. So we are in touch. Actually, we communicated this morning because he's in Paris and I'm not. But no, we never talked about it. Well, when Irreversible Redux, as I would call it, it's been re-edited for the last Venice Film Festival. Then we hanged out again, and we ended up at the Venice Film Festival to present the movie. And I've seen it again in chronological order this time. But no, otherwise, we never had any other project together.
Well, when was that? The most recent Venice Film Festival that happened?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I was not aware of this. That's extremely exciting. Are they going to release that?
Yes, I think they want to do an international release with so how is it called? It's Irreversible, Full Reverse or something like that. I don't remember what's the new title. Anyway, so I think it's 10 minutes shorter, and it's edited in chronological order, and it's even worse in a good way. I mean, it's even more depressing. I mean, you should check it out. Honestly, it's very interesting, especially if you know the movie.
Yeah, of course. I mean, one of the great things about that movie is sort of how I don't want to say how depressing it is, but the idea that revenge yields nothing but more tragedy. And I could kind of see how chronologically could also end up that way.
Your brain doesn't have to work that much anymore to replace, by the time you understand that it's all backwards and everything, some stuff might have passed, some details. When it's told in this new order, I mean, you see each and everything, so you catch much more stuff.
Yeah.
And the movie's full of details, so it's really interesting in that sense.
Yeah. When it comes to Westworld, it's a completely different approach, I think, to probably performance than a number of your other stuff, especially when you're talking about working with Gaspar, even working with Danny Boyle, where it's like there is a polish and a sheen to Westworld that I wonder how does that lean to you as an actor? How does that change your performance, if it does?
I don't know if it's really about the styling of the movie, of the series. I guess, well, first of all, it's my first experience on a TV show. And even more than that, on an American TV show. And even more than that, on an HBO American TV show. And it's a different scale. It's a different rhythm. It's a different way of working. I honestly, at first, as a French player, I felt like, okay, so nobody cares. It's like you have to take care of yourself. You're fully responsible of being there on time. There's no pickup, there's no driver. There's no. It's on a longer scale. It's on a longer amount of time. You work with a lot of different people, and the showrunner or the showrunners in that case, you barely don't see them. So you have to trust that they manage to control this huge crew and finally, get a feel of what they want. And actually they achieve that, as we can see. But I don't know. It's normally you go on the set, you meet the same person every day, you remember what you did yesterday. There it's different. Sometimes you don't even really understand what's going on, because there's a lot of different layers, different worlds. People become other people. So at a certain point, I think you need to focus on what you have to do and your storyline, and don't really try to understand what's going on around you, because I think nobody does except the showrunners.
Yeah, so it's like kind of on a scene by scene basis. What does my character want in this particular moment? Sort of focus.
Something like that, I would say.
I'm
not even quite sure.
I guess I just want to, because we were talking about Irreversible, and when you're shooting a movie like that where the aesthetic is so radical and strong and technical, if as an actor you have to start worrying about that as well, and you can't just kind of let the director do their own thing and you do your own thing with performance, you suddenly have to be worrying about exactly where the camera's going to be and how your performance is going to work and how you can interact with it.
Well, for example, that example in particular is not the right one, because Irreversible is, I think there are 12 scenes altogether in the movie. Mm-hmm. And so I think for the 12 scenes, we had like 6 pages as a script.
Right.
So, and that's a story I told before, but it's interesting. The first day of shooting, we were shooting the beginning of the movie, so the end of the story. And I said, so how long should it be? And he said, anything between 2 and 20 minutes. And I said to Gaspar, why 20 minutes? He said, because this is the biggest I have at the time, because it was on film still. And it was 16 millimeters. And so, yeah, we just, you don't know where the camera is. And when you do a 20-minute performance, you don't even remember what you did on the first take, especially if it's all improv. And that was the case. So no, you don't know. You have to trust the director. But in that case, with Gaspar, I totally trust him.
Right. So it's based on trust with the filmmaker and the aesthetic.
I guess so.
Vincent, I have to tell you, I have to let you go, but I love your work so much. It's always exciting when you appear in a movie, or in this case, a television show. I thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to me during this global quarantine that we're in. stay healthy, stay safe, and be
stay
well.
Home. And thanks for having me anyways. Cheers.
Of course. Thank you, Vincent.